Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by and spending part of your day with me. So today we have some crummy weather going on outside here in Central Ohio, but it's a perfect day for making a delicious fall chili. So last time, if you followed me from my last video, we made apple cider pulled pork, which is absolutely phenomenal. You guys often request other ways to use things that we either can up or cook here. So today we're going to be using that delicious cider pulled pork to make a delicious sweet potato and cider pulled pork chili. Now this is a dump and go kind of thing. You can make it in an hour, so it's a quick meal if you've already made the cider pulled pork. I did talk in my last video how to freeze leftovers of that, and this would be a great way to use up some of your leftovers. You're going to need the cider pulled pork, of course. You're going to need some beans in this recipe. I used dark red kidney beans and black beans, but you could use any type of beans that you like. Pinto would be delicious here as well. You're going to need some fire roasted tomatoes, some tomato sauce. I used some fresh onion. I used some bell pepper. The bell pepper, you could use any type of bell pepper you want. I used red, but you could use green, red, yellow. You could throw in some jalapenos, so the peppers are kind of up to you. You're going to need about 1.5 cups if you're using different kinds of peppers, or one medium bell pepper. I also used about 2 cups of vegetable stock. That's going to vary depending on how soupy you like your chili. And then you're going to need a sweet potato, of course. At the grocery store, they only had these really big giant sweet potatoes, so you're going to need 1 extra large sweet potato or roughly 2 medium sweet potatoes. It just depends on how much sweet potato you want in your chili. Again, this is really versatile, so you can add as much or as little as you like and make it your own. Now, one thing that I do with chili is I like to balance out the heat and the acidity of the tomatoes with a little bit of sweetness. I'm going to be using agave in mine. I think agave is fantastic in chili. It just pairs so well with those spicy flavors. But another great option would be the hot honey that we canned up. And if you didn't follow me for that, I will leave an iCard and a link in the description box below. You could also use some maple syrup would be great, or a little bit of brown sugar. You only need a tablespoon or 2, but it really helps to cut some of that acidity from the tomato and also helps to balance out some of the heat. You're also going to need some spices. I used some seasoned salt, ground black pepper, some cumin, smoked paprika, garlic powder. I used a pinch of cinnamon. That's a little bit extra. Anyway, I'm going to bring you in close and we're going to get started. Okay guys, let's get started. I have a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in the bottom of my pan. To that, I'm going to add 1 medium sweet onion, some red bell pepper. You can use any pepper you want here, maybe even some jalapeno. You could use green bell pepper, orange, yellow, whatever color that you like. I'm going to give that a little bit of a stir. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and we're just going to saute the veggies until the onions start to turn translucent and the vegetables start to get tender. All right, once your veggies start to get tender, now we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. So I've got 1 can of tomato sauce, about 1.5 cups, 1 can of diced fire roasted tomatoes, 1 can of black beans, 1 can of red kidney beans, and then I also have 1 very large sweet potato that I've diced into bite-sized pieces. You can use 2 medium. All they had at the grocery store when I bought my ingredients were these really huge ones. So I am using 1 large. I'm going to add about 2 cups or so of vegetable stock. That'll kind of depend on how soupy you like your chili. It will thicken as it cooks because our sweet potato will release some starch. So start with 2 cups. You can always add more. We're going to give all that a stir. Then I'm going to add my pulled pork that I had frozen. You're going to want about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of your pulled pork. If you defrost it first, it's easier to deal with. I forgot to take it out of the freezer. Now we're gonna add our seasonings. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of seasoned salt, a tablespoon of garlic powder. If you wanted to, you could use fresh garlic instead. I just think garlic powder is convenient. A tablespoon of chili powder, roughly. You could always add more, add less, whatever to your taste. A teaspoon of Mexican oregano. If you can't find Mexican oregano, you can use regular. 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika for some smoky flavor in the background. And about a teaspoon or so of ground cumin, if you can see it. Yep, ground cumin. That's also got a smoky flavor to it. It is not spicy at all. And again, all of your seasonings are to taste. So you want to give that a stir. Then I like to balance out some of the acidity of the tomatoes with a little bit of sweetness. So one of my favorite things to use in chili is agave. I think it just pairs really well with the spiciness of the chili. You could also use some of the hot honey we canned up if you want to add more heat. You could use a little bit of brown sugar. You could use some maple syrup. Lots of options here. So the maple syrup would be really nice in here because it's again going to bring out those fall flavors, but I'm going to use some of my agave. About a tablespoon, maybe 2. And then for my last ingredient, I'm going to add a couple of splashes of apple cider. That's going to go really well with the pulled pork that we made. Goes great with the sweet potato. It's a little bit of something extra in the background. It's just really nice in here. So we're gonna give that a stir. I am going to put my lid on till I get everything going. And then if you want your chili to thicken, you could take the lid off while it simmers for about an hour. If you take the lid off, you'll have some evaporation and some concentration that will. If you leave the lid on, you won't have that evaporation happen and it will stay more soupy for you. So that's entirely up to you. I like to get it going with the lid on, then I remove the lid and let some of it evaporate to help thicken my chili. Okay guys, my soup has been simmering for about an hour. I did have the lid on and then I just kind of cracked it so I could get some, like I said, evaporation and concentration to happen. Look how nice and thick and absolutely delicious this is. So good. So you just want to cook it enough for all your flavors to come together and for your sweet potato to get soft. So I tasted it. I'm going to add about a couple of teaspoons of freshly ground black pepper. And this is optional, but I'm going to add a couple of shakes of cinnamon. The cinnamon is so good. We did have some cinnamon in our cider pulled pork, but I want to add just a little bit more, not very much, maybe half to 1 teaspoon, just to give a little bit of something extra in the background. And we are all done. So amazing, a great fall version of chili. Okay guys, how easy was that? Super easy, right? And a delicious, really, really delicious way to use your cider pulled pork. It's so beautiful in the bowl. This would be great served with pumpkin cornbread. If you've never tried pumpkin cornbread, it would pair really well with this. Great fall flavors would go fantastically together. You could obviously top this off with some wonderful cheese, smoked Gouda. As you may have heard in the video about the cider pulled pork, goes so well with the apple flavor in the background. You could finish this with a drizzle of the hot honey, some sour cream, some avocado, just lots of great ways to finish it off. But I just wanted to give you just an up close of it. It's still really hot here, but you've got the amazing pulled pork, some tomatoes. It's a beautiful chili on top of being very nutritious and delicious, low calorie. Let's give it just a little bit of a taste. The cinnamon. So a little bit of cinnamon in the background is fantastic. You don't really taste it as sweet, but that agave in the background really helps to balance out all of the flavors. You've got the delicious beans. The little bit of apple cider adds a little bit of something in the background. Just really, really fantastic flavors that are just amazing together. So make sure you look for the cider pulled pork link in the description box below. I'll also try to remember to leave an iCard for you over here. Fantastic to make and to keep in your freezer for some delicious fall chili on the fly. It's delicious, nutritious, so good for you, and perfect for the fall season. So I hope you'll give it a try. Thanks for coming along with me today. Make sure you leave me a comment in the comment section if you have any questions or comments you'd like to leave. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time. Have a fantastic day.